welcome back everybody to another video here on the channel. Thank you all for taking some time to be here. Thank you all for those of you who are subscribed. I think I'm up to about 725 subscribers now. Wow. I don't know, but thank you all. We'll do a quick video today on a couple new records and what I have coming up. I have a couple ideas I want to share with you, and I want to talk a little bit about some comments, especially one that I got in off a couple of my videos. A really good one. I really value your comments. I try to reply to everyone. If you folks are taking the time, A, to listen to this, and B, to drop me a note, the least I could do is say thank you. And I try to. If I don't, I mean to. I just missed it. But thank you. Comments are great. Keep them coming. If you have any ideas on what you'd like me to talk about, I don't know everything about everything. How far from that. That's why I learned so much from the other vinyl community here. And I could list some great channels. I'd be leaving people out, so I'm not going to do that. But you know, so much valuable information here to be had, and I certainly don't know it all. But you know, if you have any comments on something you'd like me to talk about, let's go into what's coming. First of all, I probably should save this to last. You know, when you make these videos, you see all these videos that tell you how to do a video to get 8 million views. You know, and and they say leave suspense until talking about something that you're going to talk about at the end. I guess I should be doing that, but I'm not going to. What do I care? Anyhow, I want to do my top. You know, I don't know if it's going to be 10. It might be 7. It might be 15. I want to talk about my favorite trumpet players. These are not going to be, you know, the most influential trumpet players of all time. We'd have to start with Louis for that, you know, or maybe even back before Louis. But, you know, my favorite players. I think the next video I'm going to do is going to be on Phil Woods. I'm going to talk about a new record that I got last week that Phil did. And I want to do I have some stories, and I love Phil Woods. I love his playing. I love his growth as a player. You know, kind of after being pigeonholed as a Charlie Parker disciple, I think he grew a lot past that. But we're going to get into some interesting things on Phil. But for today, I want to talk about a couple records, and I also want to talk about this great comment I got. I'm going to post it in the notes. I hope to have enough characters because it's some great stuff in here. From I guess it's a young lady named Autumn, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Autumn, I apologize. Erilyn, Autumn Erilyn. I looked at your channel. I was hoping you did some videos. You don't, but you sure have a great playlist of some great people that you listen to, and I appreciate you listening to my channel. But I did send a note to Autumn, and I asked if I could talk about her comment, and she gracefully said yes. So this was in response to the video I did on, I believe, on Jazz for Beginners, where I listed some records and kind of gave some ideas about how to get into jazz for those who may be watching who are not, you know, ready for Eric Dolphy or Ornette, Andrew Hill, and such. And she left a great comment. I'm just going to read it. I'll post the suggestions that she had here. I'm a fairly typical jazz listener who starts with 50s Blue Note and Prestige and works backwards to bop and swing. Very similar to myself a long time ago. A heavy helping of organ, guitar, soul jazz, which I love, and sprinkling some modal and post-bop, like the issue on Crisscross and Milestone. I actually explored 50s on back after acquiring the full Pablo catalog. Congratulations and great taste. And hearing Jazz at the Pawnshop. What a great record that is. I have a CD of that. I hear there's a LP around or it's coming out. I think it was a European group. Great recording, audiophile recording. I do have the CD of it. Um, good players. Uh, some people didn't like that style of bop and Dixieland recorded in high fidelity with extended workouts. Yeah, you know what? And you're right, what you said in the beginning, and not everybody likes everything. And, life's too short. You have to find out what you like. And, I'm pretty opinionated on what I like. It doesn't mean that there's not validity in other things. I'm not an Andrew Hill guy. Though I like a lot of Ornette's work and I like a lot of Dolphy's work, jazz is a very individual thing. A lot of people say somewhat it's a musician's music. I'll listen to something and I'll say, wow, I didn't hear that before. They added this chord or there's a sharp nine there. I never heard that before. And sometimes I listen too analytical instead of listening to the music, and I have to catch myself when I do that. But some great comments. She goes on to say, if a beginner had to buy 8 items, get 3 or 4 CD sets used, and these are around. One is the Prestige Story. Absolutely. 2, the house that Trane built, story of Impulse Records, and he built Impulse. Riverside Records story, Savoy Records story, the Verve Story, the Blue Note box. This was issued only in Canada. Autumn points out. Contemporary Records story. I have that down here. These are compilations of the great players of all these labels, and it's a great way to expose yourself to different kinds of jazz. Jazz at the Pawnshop, pick it up. Pablo Original Jazz Classics, yes. I'll tell you, there's very few Pablo records that you can go wrong with, but this Jazz Classics is really good. Sample original albums to consider. These are individual records. Art Blakey, Moanin', absolutely. Horace Silver, Song for My Father, absolutely. Booker Urban, Structurally Sound, it's a good record. Bill Jackson, Bags and Flutes. Sonny Rollins, Saxophone Colossus, recently reissued. Corey Weeds, everything is coming up in Weeds. Now, I don't know Corey Weeds. I'm going to have to look into that on him, and shame on me for not knowing that. Joey DeFrancesco, who we just lost a few months ago, part 3. Wes Montgomery, So Much Guitar. Man, I got to tell you, I don't think there's a bad Wes Montgomery record. Even the CTIs that Creed Taylor did, there's a lot of good music on there. Maybe not as good as the Riversides, in my opinion, but Wes never made a bad record. Lou Donaldson, Blues Walk. Lou Donaldson, what a great player. Was the alto player on the Blakey group with Clifford Brown that we all know at Birdland. Lou Donaldson. Miles Davis, Relaxin'. Out of the 4 Prestiges, I would agree with that. I think Relaxin' is maybe my favorite. I like Cookin' too. Kind of under the radar of those 4, but it's also a great record. Various artists, Mosaic Sampler. Yeah, Mosaic puts out some good stuff, and these are all great records for a beginner. And I'm going to post these. I couldn't agree more. And Autumn, thank you so much for taking the time. I printed out what she wrote, so I didn't miss anything. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know, it'll help some folks who may be listening to this. I'm so blessed to have people who listen to this channel and take the time to give some comments. Jean-Michel, I believe it's Rissier, listens. He's in Switzerland. I know he listens and has contributed to the Jazz Shepherd Dan in Minnesota's channel. And boy, does he have some great insights. I wish he'd do some videos. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and man, I tell you, I wish I had half of his knowledge. He's so many good people. Thank you all. And like, again, if you have any ideas on what you'd like me to talk about, I'd be happy to do that in the way I try to do it here. Um, we were talking about some of these older records, and I was talking with someone last week that I spent a couple days photographing with on the Oregon coast, who's another jazz buff, about reissues. And I got a lot of comments, especially, and John Michel made some great comments, that his original Japanese pressings sound better than, for example, the contemporary reissues and some of the other reissues. And that's probably just a fact, but I like reissues, and the reason I like them is because they do a few things. They may bring music to people who don't have the original records, can't afford the original records, and it brings that music to them. And especially the tone poet stuff. They're great, man. I mean, I haven't heard it really a bad tone poet reissue. They're all super. And in many cases, not all, but many cases, I think they sound a lot better than the originals. And when Van Gelder recorded those records, they were engineered and mastered so that the low to middle income folks who listen to those records, um, could get good sound. So there's a lot of mid range. You don't have that really presence on the low end, and really even the high end. Sometimes the piano's even muffled to accentuate the horn players. Not so much, not at all in the tone poets. These tone poets are redone and recut, and man, they sound, with few exceptions, to me, a lot better than the reissues. But I do agree with what Jean Michel said. A lot of the originals that I don't have, I have a few that do sound better than some of the originals. I can never go back to, I don't know what number video where I talked about that with my Art Pepper Plus 11. I've got an original contemporary of that. I paid a lot of money for it, and it's very clean, and it sounds better to me than the new reissue. That sounds really good, by the way. But for those of you who don't have the originals, you can buy the reissues. They are exceptionally good. But some of the originals are just super. But yeah, reissues I think serve a lot of purpose. So for those of you who are doing those, Analog Productions and OJC and the other great companies, Kraft, everybody else is doing these. Keep them coming, folks, and we're very thankful for that. Yeah, so I got one other comment about. I think I made a comment about a jazz radio station, and Bob Bradley. Bob, if you're listening to this, you made a comment to me. Bob's got a great channel too, by the way. That he wished he could listen to radio stations, jazz radio stations. And I think Bob lives in Louisville, Kentucky. And I guess there's not a lot going on there, or if any. Get an internet radio, and some of the streamers have them built in now. You can buy other internet radios. Just go to Amazon, type in internet radio, you'll see a bunch of them. And I have to tell you, there's got to be hundreds and hundreds. I was listening last night to NRT, which is in Norway. They're playing some great jazz last night. Internet radio is great, and a lot of it's free, and it's a great way to hear other radio stations. WBGO in New York, which is actually New Jersey, um, is on internet radio, free. And KCSM in San Mateo, another one of my great channels. Maybe I should do a channel of internet radio, video on internet radio. Maybe that'd be something to talk about. If you like that, let me know. I'll do it. Um, Anyhow, couple new records. On the way down to the Oregon coast last week, on the way down, I stopped in Music Millennium in Portland. Excellent record store. Has a lot more new than used records, but had some stuff that I'm going to talk about in future videos. I found a new music on vinyl on Bill Evans there that was a numbered 750 pressed records. I think it was number 400 or something, 395, that I didn't even know was out. Shame on me. And it was new, sealed, and it was very reasonable. On the way back, we stopped in Tomorrow's Records in Portland, and I bought a fair amount of recordings. I'm going to talk about some of those, one of which I'll talk about today. But a couple records for today, folks. Soon, the new reissue, speaking of reissues, of My Fair Lady on Contemporary will be shipping. That's the Shelly Man version that we probably all know. There's another version of My Fair Lady, and again, it's not a heavy jazz record. In fact, a lot of it's a tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic, kind of a little comedy record. But the other half is really some great musicians playing some great versions of the tunes that come from My Fair Lady. This is called My Fair Lady with the Unoriginal Cast, and it features Shelly Man and his men, some great L.A. studio people. Monty Budwig's on this, Russ Freeman's on this, Charlie, I think Mariano's on this, Rossellino's on this, some great players, Connie Condoli's on this. This is on Capitol Records, and I found a copy of this. The funny thing is, Shelly Man and his orchestra, and the vocals are done by Jack Sheldon. He'll be in my favorites of my favorite trumpet players, and Irene Crowell. This was done back in, I think it was done in the 60s, obviously on the West Coast, 1964 in the West Coast, on Capitol Records. Great recording. This one's in pretty good shape. In fact, it's better than pretty good shape. The original Capitol label in stereo. Nice clean copy. But again, it's got some, Jack Sheldon, he's a witty guy, and put some of that into this. Rewrote some of the lyrics. You ought to hear I'm an Ordinary Man. It's pretty funny. Kind of almost politically incorrect in today's world, but it's funny, and Jack plays really great on this. Shelly Man and his men, the unoriginal cast. Good recording. The interesting thing on this, it says musical direction, Johnny Williams. Johnny Williams. That is the John Williams of Star Wars and movies. The great John Williams, a composer, conductor, classical guitarist, a great overall musician. But on here in 1964, he was Johnny Williams. Just a little interesting, kind of funny thing on this. And on the cover, you see Shelly and Jack and Irene Corral on here. It's just a funny record if you can find it. One of the highlights of my trip to Millennium in Portland was a music on vinyl copy of Stanley Turrentine's recording on CTI called Cherry. This was done after a couple of his other CTI records. Has the CTI sound, that tight studio sound. It's kind of a digital sound. You all know what CTI sounds like from back in the 70s. But boy, what a great record. Milt Jackson is on this. I think that I'm not sure who the drummer is. It might be Billy Cobham, um, uh, and just a great record. And this record is a special pink, as in, I don't know why they didn't make it red, but they made it pink vinyl, CTI, redone label. But sonically, what a good record! This is the this is a limited edition. I think they did 1,500 copies of this. This is number 711 of 1,500 copies. And I picked this up for $39.99. I haven't seen this out too often on music on vinyl. I think it's probably out of print by now. But this is 711 out of 1,500, 180 gram vinyl, pressed at RTI. Probably a Staunton jacket. Just a great find. And a great record, you know. I would imagine the original CTI sounds pretty damn good as well. I think it's one of Turrington's best records. Cherry by Stanley Turrentine on CTI. Another record that came from Face Records in Japan is Four and More, recorded live in concert. I think in a prior recording, a prior video, I said that if I could only take 3 records with me to the desert island, this would be one of them. It's a great record that Miles did in the '60s with the quintet, with Coleman and Herbie and Ron Carter, Tony Williams. It's a great pressing. Boy, I listened to this the other night, and it is superb. The old Columbia label, but it's a Japanese pressing, and it is so good. It is just amazing. It's a great record. The band really cooks on this record. The story behind this is that it was done for the NAACP in I believe Lincoln Center or Carnegie Hall, one of the places in New York. And Miles told the band prior to going on stage that they weren't getting paid, that their money was going to get donated to the cause, and it kind of pissed off the players and kind of invigorated their playing. But boy, what great playing on here! I mean, just great playing. Four and More. If you don't have this record, I don't care how you get it, CD, vinyl, whatever, get it, check it out. It's in my top 3 Miles Davis recordings. There's an idea for a video, huh? And finally, Phil Woods. I'm going to talk about Phil in, I think, my next video. But I picked up Phil Woods with Bud Johnson. Now, Phil did a lot of collaborations with Gene Quill, Benny Carter, who he really took a lot of sound from Benny Carter. And this is Bud Johnson. Bud Johnson's a great tenor player. This is done on the Uptown label, which is I think it's a defunct label. It was done by a couple doctors up in Kingston, New York. And they did a number of records that are all good. I have a couple more of them. But this is Bud Johnson and Phil Woods. And, you know, there's only 3 tunes aside, so they get to stretch out a little bit. Great arrangements. Bill Goodwin is on drums. George Duvivier on bass. Man, if you look up George Duvivier and look at what he has done, man, he has on so many records. And is such an underrated and tasty bass player. Just a great player. Richard Wyans on piano. So great rhythm section. And Phil and Bud Johnson play really exceptionally well on this. Bud died about 6 months after this record is made, and I actually think it's Bud Johnson's last recording. This was done back in 1984 rather, in 84, at Van Gelder in Englewood, New Jersey. But a great sounding record on Uptown Records, kind of a kind of a cool little label in here, black and gold. Um, you know, again, Phil Woods is almost like Wes Montgomery in that there are very, very few below average Phil Woods records. This sound on this, I paid $7 for this in Tomorrow's Records in Portland, and I've listened to this 3 times already, and it's in good shape. Um, you find stuff like this, and it makes up for all the stuff that you buy that they say is VG plus. It turns out to be good. What a great record! But I'm going to do the Phil Woods thing next. Again, thank you for all your comments. Keep them coming. Please subscribe, um, and all that good stuff. And if you have any ideas, what anything you like, let me know. And thank you all. And Autumn, thank you so much for your comments, and Bob Bradley and everybody else that made some comments. And it means a lot. And thank you. And until next time, we'll see you soon.